Hello, welcome back. This is the author Preston Asevedo, and today I'm doing a breakdown of an illustration I'm doing for a comic called 3 Nights, 4 Days. Okay, so to start off, um, I'll start off by doing a thumbnail. It's a sketch, and like I said in the other videos, I don't use a lot of structure. Well, I do, but it's really loose structure, like easily done. What I do is I scan it into the computer, blow it up, and to the size that I want it. I usually work around 19 by 24 when it comes to just basic illustrations. When it comes to comic pages, it's 15 by 23. I know it's huge, but I'm not the only one that works that big, so whatever. Anyway, so what I'm doing here is I'm blue lining everything in, at least all the simple structures, onto my Bristol. I would suggest everybody get a light table. It's also, while this is going on, it gives me the option to go ahead and do a ton of fixes and add in a bunch of stuff, you know, while I'm putting as you can see, like I'm adding in people in the background that aren't there on the original thumbnail that I did. Well, as close to a thumbnail as I'm going to get. It's a process. It's not something you knock out right away. And obviously, I don't have Facebook turned off at the moment. Like I said, new at this. You have to bear with me just a little bit. Okay, that'll work out better. And I love doing monsters. I think that's why I got into comics and sci-fi. It's just to do monsters. You get so much creative freedom when doing things like that. And that's, I mean, come on, the gore. Yeah. Need I say more? But and if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask them down there in the comments section, and I'll answer them as best as I can, or even cut a video to go ahead and help you out. And also look me up on Patreon if you like what you see. It's Preston Asevedo on Patreon, Preston Asevedo on Instagram, Art of Preston Asevedo on Facebook, and at Nikki the Pipe on Twitter. Okay, so now that we're done putting all the structure and the thumbnail and all that kind of crap in with the blue line, what I'm using right now is a very hard lead, like a 2H, to go in and put in some light pencils. And what I'm doing now is I'm just doing light detail, nothing serious, just going in and putting some in there. I'm not doing shadows or anything like that. You don't want to press too hard either, even though it's light pencils that's going down. You can't get dark pencils with a 2H. 2H is an extremely hard lead. But if you press down too hard, you can actually ruin your paper and stain it. And it just sucks. Just don't do it. Just kind of do it lightly. So here's where all the anatomy studies and all that kind of stuff comes into play. Also, sometimes you may have to leave I would suggest you leave your photocopy blown up and stuck to the back of your Bristol, just in case you get lost. You can go back and turn on a light table and just find your way again. And also, like, experimenting with textures. You want your anatomy to be right, even when doing creatures, like fantasy creatures and stuff like that, because there's a term. If it was alive, it'd be dead. Which means exactly what it sounds like it means. If it lived, it would kill itself, because the muscles all screwed up, and its belly button's on its back or whatever. So you wanna make sure your anatomy is tight when you go. So texturing plays a huge part when you're doing creatures, like cyst, scales, stuff like that. It all plays into making something extremely interesting. I mean, it's good to know your anatomy, but you also have to know your texture, because that's what makes everything interesting. Now, when it comes to hands, I usually I use the octagon method, which is find the center knuckle and go off the pyramid off of that. I don't get serious about that either. Not until I'm ready to do my final pencils. I insinuate where the knuckle's going to be at, and just kind of insinuate where the fingers are going to be at. Darken it up just a little bit. With creatures, it's easy because everything's going to have claws. I love doing detail. I think that's why I like doing comics, is to cram as much detail into a page, into a face, into a body, to an eye, hand, whatever. Just makes things more interesting. Gives the reader something to look at too. I definitely do not go to less is more theory when it comes to that. But if you do, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either. Doing eyeballs, I start out with a circle to insinuate the eyeball itself, and just go off of that with like an eyelid. I'm gonna do a video on eyeballs, because eyeballs and facial features are definitely something that needs to be covered. As you can see, it takes me a while to get it right. Always use an expression. Don't ever give your characters a blank expression. The ears look a little bit high here, but you gotta do it as far as position of ears based on the angle of the head. Like on this character, his head's angled down just a hair, so no long hair on this one. Okay, so hair. Okay, with this character, we're going with a short view. Almost a crew cut, but not quite. A lot of people have trouble with hair. I think they overthink it. You don't have to do every strand, but you have to kind of make it look flowing, and hair is manipulated by air, wind, whatever, and motion. So in this case, he's been fighting for a while, so his hair is all sweaty and clinging to him, so I kind of clumped it up a little bit towards his forehead. Put him a little soul patch. Well, no, more like a goatee. Yeah. Give him that Russell Crowe look. Now you see, I'm starting on my armor now. I want to make you aware of the center line, because everything's going off the center line and the cross going between the shoulders. You can use your pencil as a measuring stick to make sure you're doing it correctly, to make sure things line up. And there's nothing wrong with erasing. Erase all you want. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You have to make a few mistakes before you can get to perfection. Once again, if you like what you see here, please feel free to hit the subscribe button, and you can also look me up on Patreon if you feel like, supporting my work at Preston Asevedo on Patreon, Art of Preston Asevedo on Facebook, and Preston Asevedo on Instagram. Of course, the three knights are main characters in this illustration, but I also want to make people aware of the background characters. you should put as much effort into your background characters as you are into your main characters. Uh, some of the greatest artists out there that do comics, illustration, cartoon, and all that kind of stuff. If you notice their work, like a lot of them put a ton of detail into the background. They don't skimp on any of that stuff. They love the work. And as you can see in every instance, I'm using my structure as my base of doing everything. I mean, there's artists out there that can take major shortcuts. But, I mean, you're talking about like Jim Lee and John Burns, Arthur Adams, people like that. If you're not them, then you have to do what I'm doing here. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, everybody's got to start somewhere. So when you're doing a character and you're to the edge of your page, what I like to do, and it's a pretty good trick, I guess, like take another page, tape it to the side, and go ahead and illustrate the whole thing. And that way your proportions are in order, your anatomy's correct, or at least correct as it's going to be when you're drawing an ogre. And you're not guessing or cramming or anything like that. So, just a tip. And once again, Author Preston Asevedo on Facebook, Preston Asevedo on Instagram, and if you're getting anything out of this, maybe Preston Asevedo on Patreon. Thank you. And now the king demon in the background. See how I'm fortifying my structure a little bit there. Circle for the eyeball. Oh, I guess I didn't like those circles. Always use your crosshairs. Make sure your eye line is above your ear line, like not where the ear begins on the skull, not where that lobe ends. It's also good to study up on different types of anatomy too. Like if you notice where the shoulders begin, like towards like where they start on the pecs, it's closer to the indentation of the collarbone, in the middle of the chest. What I'm using here is I'm using gorilla anatomy, so that's, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's my fiance in the background yelling at the dogs. Anyway, gorilla anatomy, and it's pretty cool because like primates, their shoulders are massive, so you can play around with that, especially with monsters. Like I said, don't be afraid to experiment. Just kind of go with it, see where things lead. That's why we do studies. And that's going to end it for part 1 of 3 Nights, a graphic novel by Micha Curtis, illustrated by me. This is going to be the promo poster. The next part, we'll be doing detailing, like coming in doing hard pencils. Stay tuned for it. It's going to be interesting. We're going to cover textures, different things like that. Okay, thank you. Once again, Preston Asevedo on Patreon. If you feel that you've gotten something out of this and it's worth maybe dropping a brother a buck. And Preston Asevedo on Instagram, and Author Preston Asevedo on Facebook. Thank you.